Okay, today is November 28th, and it's 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Here where I live in North Carolina, it's 1 o'clock, so it's time for Aesop's Fables. We didn't meet last week because of Thanksgiving holiday, so we're back to live classes today. I mentioned before that the two fables we're going to study today, I forget what number they are, but the first one is the Lark and Her Young Ones. That's the first fable we're going to study. I think it's like 110, somewhere around there. 110, the Lark and Her Young Ones. And then the second fable is going to be, if we get there, because the first one's pretty long, the Goatherd and the She-Goat. Okay, so those are our two fables today. We'll see if we get to both of them because this first one looks a little bit long. All right. I don't think we have anything else to talk about. Most of you know the deal. Now, remember, the reason we're having this class is not just so that I could babysit you for a few minutes and give mom a break. That's not why we have these classes, even though mom might like that. But the reason we have these classes is so that the reason we have these classes is so that you can do better on the assignments and get the work completed easier. So what I'd like you to do is make sure you pay attention because I'm really going to answer the assignment questions for you as we go through the fable. And then if you pay attention, you should be able, after our class is over, you should be able to go and get these assignments done and submit them and get credit for these lessons. Okay, so that's the purpose of these classes, is to help you get the assignments done. So make sure you pay attention. You might want to take some notes, like when I talk about the moral of the story and things like that. You might want to just jot that down so you can go get the assignments done and get your credit for that. If you don't do that, you might wait a few days or a week, and then you'll forget what we talked about, or you'll have to watch the video over again, where you could just get it done today and move on. So let's try to pay attention and get through this together so you guys can get those assignments done, okay? So the fable here, I'm going to share my screen and we'll read it together and take a look at it. Get ready to go through this with me here. The fable here is The Lark and Her Young Ones, and we've got a picture up here at the top of the page of a lark, this pretty bird here. Looks like she's carrying a basket. This is a fable, of course, so it's meant to be ridiculous, and you can see her babies over here, her young ones, and you can see they've got like little bird toys on the ground. They got a little bird car and a bird dish and a spoon and a bowl. So these are her little baby larks. We're going to read a fable about the lark and her young ones. All right. Let me just make sure no one's waiting to get in here. We've got a couple students coming in still. Okay, so the fable of the lark and her young ones. A lark who had young ones in a field of corn. So they're on the ground in a cornfield. If you look at that picture, the babies are actually sitting on the ground in the cornfield. A lark who had young ones in a field of corn, which was almost ripe, was afraid lest the reapers should come before her young brood were fledged. What do you think the word fledged means? She was afraid that the harvesters would come, the reapers. They're the people who cut the corn down and collect all the corn. She was afraid that the reapers would come before her young ones were fledged. Yeah, very good, before they could fly. If you look at the picture, it doesn't even look like they have feathers yet, right? So it means to grow their feathers and be able to fly. They're pretty ugly, actually, if you look at them. Not like puffy little yellow chicks. They're pretty ugly little skinny things. So she's hoping that they grow their feathers and grow their wings and can get out of there before the reapers come. Okay, good. So a lark who had young ones in a field of corn, which was almost ripe, was afraid lest the reapers should come before her young brood were fledged. Every day, therefore, when she flew away to look for food, she charged them to take notice of what they heard in her absence and to tell her of it when she returned. So she had to go collect food for them and bring it back. And she wanted them to pay attention and let her know if they heard anything. Probably if they, well, let me ask you, what do you think she wanted to know? She asked them to pay attention, see if they heard anything to tell her when she comes back. What do you think that she expected for them to hear? Yeah, maybe hear talk of maybe the farmers talking or the reapers starting to work. Good. That's what I think too. Okay, so she told the little ones to keep their ears open and listen, and if they heard anything to let her know. One day when she was gone, they heard the master of the field say to his son that the corn seemed ripe enough to cut, and tell him to go early tomorrow and desire their friends and neighbors to come and help reap it. So the master said, it looks like it's time to reap the corn. Okay, and the little ones heard that. When the old lark came home, the little ones fell, quivering and chirping around her, and told her what had happened, begging her to remove them as fast as she could. The mother bade them to be easy. What do you think bade means? What do you think bade means? Begged? Yeah, asked them, told them. Good, all right. The mother bade them to be easy, for, she said, if he depends upon his friends and his neighbors, I am sure the corn will not be reaped tomorrow. So the mother says, oh, don't worry about it. He's asking for all his friends to help, and since he depends on all his friends, it's probably going to take some time, and they're not going to be ready to reap the next day. And so the next day she went out again and left the same orders as before. The owner of the field came and waited. The sun grew hot, but nothing was done, for not a soul came. None of his friends came to help with the reaping. You see, said he to his son, these friends of ours are not to be depended on. So run off at once to your uncles and cousins and say that I wish them to come betimes tomorrow and help us to reap. So he sends his son to go and call their family members to help them reap, since their friends didn't show up. This the young ones, in a great fright, reported to their mother. Do not be frightened, children, said she. Kindred and relations are not always very forward in helping one another, but keep your ears open and let me know what you hear tomorrow. The owner came the next day, and finding his relations as backward as his neighbors, what do you think backward means there? Finding his relations as backward as his neighbors. What do you think that means? As backward, as untrustworthy? Yeah, that's pretty good. As unhelpful, that's good. Unhelpful, yep, I think that's good. Okay, as backward. It means like doing the opposite of what they were supposed to do. All right, so the owner came the next day, and finding his relations as backward as his neighbors, he said to his son, now, George, listen to me. Get a couple of good sickles ready against tomorrow morning, for it seems that we must reap the corn by ourselves. What is a sickle? What is this word sickle? What does that mean? Get a couple of good sickles ready. What's a sickle? Something to reap with, that's good. A tool, a farming tool, a sharp blade for reaping, a tool used for farming. I don't think it's a wheelbarrow. A reaping tool. See, now those of you who answered reaping tool, I think that's the best answer, okay? Because you know what they're talking about. You know they're talking about reaping. You might not know exactly what the tool is. You might not know exactly what a sickle is. But you can tell from the context, you can tell that it's a tool, something that they would use for reaping. So that was a good answer, all right? Get a couple of good sickles ready. for it seems we must reap the corn by ourselves. The young ones told this to their mother. So they told the mother that the master said that they're going to reap it themselves. Then, my dears, said she, it's time for us to go. For when a man undertakes to do his business himself, it is not so likely that he will be disappointed. And so she removed her young ones immediately, and the corn was reaped the next day by the old man and his son. All right, so that's the fable of the lark and the young ones. Okay, so let's talk about the characters for a minute. Pay attention here. Don't get silly on me. In the fable, we've got a couple characters, right? A number of characters. We've got the lark and her young ones, obviously. We've got these birds. Those are the first set of characters. And then we've got the master and his son, some more characters. Then we've got the friends of the master, and we've got the relatives of the master. So a bunch of different characters. And we have to ask, why would Aesop choose these different characters? And it's because of their relationships, right? The relationships between the master and his neighbors, the relationship between the master and his relatives, and between the master and his son themselves. Okay, that's enough. We understand what a sickle is. That's enough of that now. Okay. So we've got these characters in the story. So different relations, different kinds of relations, neighbors, relatives, and your own family, yourself. So those are the characters, and then we've got the lark and her young ones. Probably chose a lark because a lark apparently makes their nest on the ground. I don't know if you've ever seen any birds that make their nest on the ground. Out here on the farm, we have one kind of bird that does this. It's real annoying. They do it in the summertime, and then when we're out cutting the grass and stuff like that, you've got to be careful because there's this nest filled with eggs in the middle of the lawn, and the mother bird is running around pretending like we're the ones doing something wrong by cutting the grass, but it's because she built her nest right in the middle of the lawn. So we've got these birds where we live that do something like this. But a lark apparently makes their nest on the ground, which puts the babies in danger, so they always have to watch out and get ready to move. So that would make sense why Aesop would choose a lark. It wouldn't make much sense to tell this story and have a bird with a nest up in a tree, right? So he had to use a bird with a nest and that keeps her babies on the ground. Okay, so that's the characters that we see here. The moral of the story, I think Aesop tells us the moral of the story here. When a man undertakes to do his business himself, he will not be disappointed. Okay, so the moral of the fable is, this is an easy one because Aesop actually tells us the moral. When a man undertakes to do his business himself, it's not so likely that he will be disappointed. There's another way we say that in modern society. We say, if you want something done right, do it yourself. You know that saying? If you want something done right, you need to do it yourself. If you want something done right, you need to do it yourself. If you make yourself dependent on your neighbors and you make these plans for people to help you, they might not show up. If you ask your relatives to help you, they might not show up. So if you want to make sure that something gets done, you need to do it yourself. That's usually how life works. Okay? If you want something done right, you need to do it yourself. So that's one moral of the story, right? That's one moral we can think of. So if you think about it, through the eyes of the owner, the moral is, if you want something done right, do it for yourself. Now let's think about something else. Let's think about the fable from the eyes of the relatives. What do you think is a good moral lesson if you're one of the relatives? What do you think about that? What do you think a good moral lesson might be if you're one of the relatives? What do you think? Give me some ideas here. What might a good moral lesson be if you're one of the relatives in this fable? help those in need. Good. Yeah. So if you're a relative and one of your relatives asks you for help, don't be like the relatives in this fable. If somebody asks for your help, give them a hand, right? Okay, to help others. Good. Same thing for the neighbors, right? The neighbors in the story. If someone asks for your help, be willing. That's what it means to be neighborly. It means to help your neighbor, and then when you need help, you can expect that your neighbor will help you in return. Can't make him, but if your neighbor is a nice person, he'll remember the time you helped him, and when you are in trouble, he'll help you. All right. So you see how we can think about the fable from two different points of view. We can think about the fable from the view of the owner. And so, like before, Audrey told us she has her own business. So, Audrey, if you want something done right, you need to do it yourself, right? You can't hire other people to do your work for you because they're never going to do it as seriously or as well as you would do it for yourself. If you want it done right, you're going to need to do it yourself. But the lesson for us as neighbors and as relatives is when someone asks us to help, be generous and offer help when other people have needs. Okay, so that's a pretty easy fable, I think. I think that's going to be all for that one. All right. Pretty easy because Aesop tells us the moral. When a man undertakes to do his business himself, it's not likely that he will be disappointed. Okay, any questions about that fable? Or are you ready to go on? You can say go on or let me know. You ready to go on? Any questions? Pretty easy. If you're ready, we'll go on to the next one. Ready to go on? Okay, good. So yeah, there's one good lesson there. Sometimes when you're students and you see a lesson that has the lesson that's long, listen to me real quick. Sometimes you'll see a lesson that's long and you'll be kind of lazy and not want to do a long lesson. But that's a good example where that was a long fable and it was actually very easy. So don't be deceived by how long a lesson is. That doesn't mean it's hard. Make sure you study the long lessons, not just the short ones. Some of the short ones could be even more difficult. Let me just look real quick because I saw a couple questions come in. What number was the lesson? I think it's 110, 110. All right. Can I turn off the chat while doing the fable? No, I'd like you guys to learn self-control. I mean, if we can't control ourselves, I might as well just turn off the whole live class, right? And just make videos by myself. I'd like you guys to just be respectful and have self-control. Joseph asked, if we use the morals that someone else besides ourselves figure out, do we have to somehow cite them? No. The purpose of this, let me just say this. When you copy someone else's ideas, the problem is usually other people don't want you to copy their ideas. And that's why if you do copy their ideas, you need to give them the credit. That's what it means to cite someone else's ideas. So you should give them the credit. You're basically saying like, look, this wasn't my idea. I heard it from this person, and I thought it was a good idea, so I'm sharing it. But I want to give credit to that person because it was his idea. That's the purpose of citing. In a lesson like this, where I'm going through this lesson with you, and I'm intentionally telling you what the fable is and things like that, you don't need to use a citation because you're not copying my stuff or taking things without permission. Okay. Let's see what else is going on here in the chat before we get going. I'm not going to turn the chat off. It's number 110. Okay. Rather than turn the chat off, I'll just take people out of the meeting who fool around on chat. That's better, isn't it? No use punishing the good people. If someone else on the chat says a moral, how do I credit them? Just don't worry about it, okay? This is a class. We're sharing things on purpose. That's really not the purpose of citation. Citing things is to give credit when someone else did the work and you're taking it from them, okay? All right. Okay, next fable. Let's go on to 111. 111, the goat herd and the she-goat. The goat herd and the she-goat. Before we get started here, before we get started here, who knows what a goat herd is? Who knows what a goat herd is? What's a goat herd? What's a goat herd? Yeah, I knew you were going to say a herd of goats. It's not a herd of goats. Not a herd of goats. You guys know the word shepherd, right? Hold on, hang on. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Hang on. You guys know what the word shepherd. Shepherd is a short form for sheep herd. Okay. Shepherd is a sheep herd. And what it means, it's not talking about a herd of sheep. It's talking about the person who takes care of the sheep, the person who herds the sheep herder. A goat herd is a person who takes care of goats. Now, we really don't have goat herds today because most of the time today, when people have goats, they just take care of them themselves. They're not goat herds. They're the owners of the goats. Usually a goat herd was a servant and it was his job to take care of the goats. And usually when people had servants, they had lots of goats. So it was like a full-time job to be the goat herd. So this fable is about the goat herd, the servant or whoever it was that took care of the goats, and the she-goat. And the she-goat is just a female goat, obviously. Okay. So the fable of the goat herd and the she-goat. So let's read this fable together. Keep it quiet on chat, all right? A boy whose business it was to look after some goats. So this boy is the goat herd, okay? A boy whose business it was to look after some goats, as night began to fall, gathered them together to lead them home. So he takes them out, takes them out to a place where there's brush or grass for them to eat, takes them to a place where they can get some fresh water to drink. And then when the sun starts to go down, he's got to gather them together and lead them all back home to the barn to lock them up for the night. All right. So as night began to fall, he gathered the goats together to lead them home. One of the number of the goats, a she-goat, alone refused to obey his call and stood on a ledge of rock, nibbling the herbage that grew there. So one she-goat refused to obey, and she just kept on eating. And it says that she was standing on the ledge of a rock. So probably like a cliff, right? On the edge of a cliff or a mountain. So she decided that she's just going to stay there and keep eating. The boy lost all patience. The boy lost all patience and took a great stone and threw it at the goat with all his force. So he decided to throw a stone at the goat. The stone struck one of the horns of the goat and broke it off at the middle, so busted the goat's horn off. The boy, terrified at what he had done and fearing his master's anger, threw himself upon his knees before the goat and begged her to say nothing about the mishap. Now, why do you think the boy was afraid? Why was the boy afraid? Why was the boy afraid? He's the goat herd, right? He takes care of the goats. Why was he afraid? Because they're not his goats, right? They're not his goats. Yeah, they belong to the master. They belong to the master. He's supposed to take care of them. And what does he do? He ends up busting the horn off one of the goats. And that's serious because what do goats use their horns for? What are goat horns for? What do they use them to honk at other goats when there's traffic? Is that what goat horns are for? What do they use horns for? It looks like you got it. Yeah, protection, for fighting, for butting other goats off, for defense. Good. Okay, so it's a way to protect themselves. So if a goat loses its horn, that's a big problem because it loses its ability to protect itself. And it can get beat up by the other goats. Now, let me ask you this. Why do you think it's especially important Why is it especially important that this is a she-goat? Why do you think it's especially important that he hurt a she-goat? What's special about a she-goat? Okay, that's one good suggestion. Yeah, those of you talking about milk, yeah, it's a she-goat. So milk is one reason why it's important. What's another reason why it's especially important that he hurt a she-goat? Provides milk, good, that's one reason. But listen, she-goats don't just make milk. You don't just randomly make milk. Zoriana has it. She can make babies, right? So she-goats are very valuable because without she-goats, a farmer can't have any more goats. So if a she-goat gets killed or dies or is injured, the farmer doesn't just lose the she-goat. The farmer also loses all the babies that she-goat could give him. So the female animals on a farm, the female animals are even more valuable than the male animals. Okay, so to hurt a female animal is even more serious because basically you injure all the babies too. Okay, so good. So the boy threw a stone, hit the goat in the horn, and broke the horn off the goat. And then he was terrified, threw himself upon his knees, and begged the goat to not say anything to the master. Okay, he said it was not his intention to aim the stone so well. That's a pretty bad excuse, isn't it? I wasn't intending to hit you as well as I did, right? So if you're out playing with your brother or sister, and your brother picks up a rock and throws it at you and hits you right between the eyes, it's not a very good excuse for him to say, "Oh, I didn't mean to hit you right between the eyes. I was hoping just to hit you in the mouth, or I was trying to just hit you in the chest. I wasn't really trying to hit you in the eyes." That's not a very good excuse, is it? Not a very good excuse. Okay. It's kind of funny, actually. That's something that a kid would say, you know. Don't punish me, mom. I wasn't trying to knock her teeth out. I just wanted to hit her in the cheek, right? That's not a very good excuse. Okay. You're still going to get in trouble. So the boy asked the goat not to tell on him, not to tell the master, and his argument is that he wasn't intending to hit her and knock her horn off. All right. But the goat replies and says, "Tush, tush." What does tush mean? What does that mean? What is tush? Tut. Okay, what does tut mean? Josephine says, "Shh, humph, be quiet," right? Like, give me a break, right? Whatever. That's right. Good, Petra. That's right. Okay. So it's like, give me a break, whatever, replied the goat. Let my tongue be ever so silent. So she says, even if I'm quiet, even if my tongue is quiet, my horn is going to tell the tale. My horn is sure to tell the tale. So you've got no chance, boy, because even if I'm quiet, even if I promise not to say a word, the master is going to see my horn and you're in big trouble. Okay. So this is the fable of the goat herd and the she-goat. All right, the goat herd and the she-goat. And that's all for that fable. So let's talk about this fable. We've got three characters, right? Three characters. Who are the three characters? Three characters in this fable. Who are they? Give me one of them. Who are the three characters? The goat, very good. That's one. The goat, the master, and the goat herd, right? The boy. Make sure you remember that the boy and the goat herd are the same person, right? The master, the goat herd, and the she-goat. Very good, Josephine. Okay. Let's not call him a shepherd. Let's not call him a shepherd. And my kids used to do that. We used to have goats, and my kids would ask if they could go shepherd the goats. And I always used to yell at them that they shouldn't. It doesn't make any sense to say you're going to go shepherd the goats, right? You're going to just go herd the goats. You don't need to say shepherd the goats. So 3 characters, the goat herd, the she-goat, and the master. Notice it's important to understand that the goat herd doesn't own the goats. They're not his. His job is just to take care of them, right? And so it's pretty ridiculous to think that it's your job. Now let's just think about this for a minute, because this is pretty good, this story. Pay attention with me here, because this is a little difficult to talk about. What is the goat herd's job? What is his job? What is his job? To protect the goats. Very good, right? His job is to take care of the goats. That's right. Good. So he takes the goats out. He's supposed to try to help the goats find food, find some fresh water, keep them safe, right, from other animals that might harm them. His whole job is to protect the goats. Why is he bringing the goats in at night? Why is he trying to get the goats back to the barn? Why is he trying to bring them in? Sun's going down. Why is he trying to get them in? Yeah, because you're right. Dangerous animals come out at night. Animals can get lost at night. There's no way to find them because it's dark. All kinds of predators come out. Coyotes, wolves, all kinds of predators come out at night. That's right. So he's trying to get the animals in. His whole job is to protect the animals. And what does he end up doing to the goat? What does he end up doing to the she-goat? Does he do his job? No, right. He doesn't do his job. He ends up being the one who hurts the goat himself. He ends up being the one who hurts the goat himself. And I want you to pay careful attention here, because this is really what the moral of the fable is, okay? What virtue, listen to this question carefully, what virtue did this goat herd not have? What virtue did he not have? Very good, Joseph. That was good. Good and quick. The virtue that he did not have, it says right in the fable, right? It says, the boy lost all patience. The boy lost all patience. So what we see here is a person who is not patient. And what's dangerous about not being patient is when you lose your patience, you'll end up doing exactly what you're not supposed to do, and you'll be a hypocrite. You'll actually do what you pretend that you don't want to happen. So you see, losing your patience is just losing your mind, right? It doesn't make any sense. It's irrational. So imagine this situation. The boy is angry because he wants to get the goats in because the sun is going down. So he wants to get the goats in because he doesn't want them to get hurt. So he loses his patience and ends up hurting one of the goats. How dumb can you be? That's what happens when you lose your patience, okay? So patience, we can see that patience is staying calm and being reasonable, right? To be patient means to be calm and to continue to be reasonable, all right? That's what it means. That's why patience is important. It helps us to continue to be reasonable even when someone does something that makes you angry, right? I can respect the goat herd because we had goats, and there were many days where I wanted to throw a rock at a goat because goats can be very annoying. So I understand what the goat herd was thinking and how he felt. But when we lose our patience, we do things that are unreasonable. So I think we're going to say that the moral of this fable is that being impatient can cause us to hurt ourselves. Being impatient can cause us to act unreasonably or to hurt ourselves, okay? That was his whole purpose. That was his whole purpose, was to take care of the goats, and he lost his patience, and losing his patience led him to actually hurt the goat, okay? So that's going to be the moral of the fable. Be careful that you don't lose your patience, or it might cause you to actually hurt yourself and do what you did not want to happen. All right. We can think about lots of examples like that, right? You lose your patience, you say something nasty to someone, and you might cause yourself to lose a friend. And the reason you were angry was because you were jealous for that friend. And your impatient behavior led you to lose the friend anyway. So we've got to be careful of impatience. Okay. All right. So that's it. So two fables today. We were able to get through. 110 was the fable of the lark and her young ones. And 111 was the fable of the goat herd and the she goat. I think the characters are pretty clear. The moral story is, the moral of the lessons are pretty clear. And that's about it. We've got some time left, but I'm not going to leave the chat open anymore since you're fooling around on it. So I think we're just going to wrap up for today. We went over two fables. What I'd like you to do now is go and get these fables done, get the assignments done, get them turned in, so you can get credit for the lessons. If you paid attention, you should be able to do that pretty easily. If you didn't pay attention, you'll either have to study it again on your own or watch the video over again, but I'll post the video later on today when I get some time. But that's going to be all today for Aesop's Fables. Again, these are Fables number 110 and 111. So get these assignments done. Keep studying Aesop's Fables, and I'll see you all next week. All right? So God bless you all. Take care.